Okay, good. Oh, yeah.
What lights up there?
Yeah, you can see the light inside the projector. We could go ahead and get started, and I can restart this. If I restart this computer, and sometimes that fixes it. While you're in Proclamations.
Okay. We have everybody online?
Everyone's on. I'm just gonna.
Okay. Alrighty, good in the sound booth? Okay, we're good. Good evening, everybody. You are officially at a Common Council meeting of the City of Wausau. It is November 12th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Due to the projector, I'm restarting the system, so I'll just do a voice roll call. You can say, here if you're present. Lukens?
Here.
Martins?
Here.
Killian?
Here.
Neal? Gisselman? McElhaney? Rasmussen?
Here.
Watson?
Here.
Tierney?
Here.
Larson?
Here.
Hanky?
Here.
We have 9 voting members present.
Thank you.
And Gisselman and Neal are excused.
Thank you. All right, strap in. We've got some proclamations. It's proclamation heavy here, November. Several of these have been read already at the event, so we're just going to read them enter them into the record here tonight. First one is the Never Forgotten Honor Flight. We had an opportunity to commemorate the 50th flight on October 28th of Never Forgotten Honor Flight. Total of 4,814 veterans have participated since inception. So we designated the week of October 27th through November 2nd as Never Forgotten Honor Flight Week in Wausau. We also had a great weekend of celebrations, both Hmong New Year and Veterans Day celebrations. On Saturday and Sunday, we had the Hmong New Year, and we proclaimed that as Hmong New Year, November 9th and 10th of 2024. We'll enter that into the record. Lung Cancer Awareness Month. November is a Cancer Awareness Month, and we hereby proclaim Lung Cancer Awareness Month for November 2024. And we recognize the need for research in lung cancer affecting women and men and lung cancer health disparities, and encouraging all citizens to learn about lung cancer and early detection through lung cancer screening. All right, so I do have 3 that we will be reading today. First up is Homeless Awareness Month. November, as we head into the cold climate, we spend a little extra time on homeless awareness. So the proclamation reads, whereas many Wausonians experience homelessness, with an estimated 300 plus over the course of a 9-month period during the community outreach according to community outreach specialists, and whereas individuals experiencing homelessness in Wausau include families, veterans, unaccompanied youth, and chronically homeless individuals, and whereas the purpose of this proclamation is to educate the public about the many reasons people are homeless, including shortage of affordable housing in Wausau for very low-income residents, as well as mental illness, and to encourage support for homeless assistance services, service providers, as well as community service opportunities for citizens and service organizations. And whereas there are many organizations committed to sheltering and providing supportive services as well as meals and food supplies to the homeless, including Catholic Charities, Salvation Army, Women's Community, and Bridge Street Mission. And whereas there are many people who are one step away from homelessness, and there are many organizations dedicated to helping homelessness, such as North Central Community Action Program, CW Solutions, Job Center, McLitt Literacy Program, St. Vincent de Paul, Marathon County Social Services, and more. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Doug Dinny, Mayor of City of Wausau, do hereby proclaim November as Homelessness Awareness Month in the City of Wausau, and I commend this observance to all citizens and ask them to recognize the systemic issues that drive homelessness and in taking bold steps to meaningfully address housing insecurity in Wausau. Signed, Doug Dinny, Mayor, City of Wausau. Up next, I think we have some first responders to receive this one. It is also Crash Responder Safety Week. Whereas Wisconsin's emergency responders work tirelessly to save lives and keep the state's highways safe, responding to more than 130,000 traffic crashes in Wisconsin every year. And whereas at every crash scene, emergency responders responding to fire, law enforcement, emergency medical services, and towing and transportation services are at risk of being struck and injured or even killed in the secondary crash. Motor vehicle crashes end the lives of law enforcement officers more than any other cause when motorists fail to move over. Crash Responder Safety Week is November 18 through 22nd. Is set aside each year to recognize the often life-saving work of our crash responders and to protect those who protect you by following the slow down and move over law. Whereas the City of Wausau joins the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, recognizing a need for public awareness and acknowledgement that we are all responsible for preventing secondary crashes that endanger the lives of our dedicated emergency personnel. Now here, therefore, I, Doug Dinny, hereby proclaim November 18 through 22nd as Crash Responder Safety Week in the City of Wausau, and I ask all citizens to support this worthy initiative. Signed, Doug Dinny, Mayor, City of Wausau. Gentlemen. You want me to read it? No. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll save some words for later. All right. Over the weekend, we had several opportunities to read into the record the Veterans Day. It was Veterans Day yesterday, culminating in approximately 190 folks at the attending the UWSP Civic Engagement Center reception and speaker, a Medal of Honor recipient, Sammy Lee Davis. Last night, 190 plus people were there. Great event. I think I saw a few of you there last night. So that culminated Veterans Day. And one of the things that we overlooked this year is honoring our Hmong veterans. There is a governor declared Veterans Day for the Hmong. So I did a little hybrid here, recognizing our Hmong soldiers today. And it is as follows. Whereas during the Vietnam War, thousands of Hmong Lao people fought alongside American soldiers in the secret war in Laos to combat the North Vietnamese army, a sacrifice met by harsh retribution from the Vietnamese and Lao governments. And whereas cooperation with American forces in Laos during the Vietnam War resulted in many Hmong Lao soldiers and their families being forced to flee their homelands, resettling in communities throughout the United States, including Wausau. And whereas Hmong Lao soldiers who settled in America weren't recognized as U.S. veterans for their efforts as allies to the United States, and whereas since the Vietnam War, many Hmong Lao Americans within our community have courageously fought in combat as U.S. soldiers. And whereas we recognize, appreciate, and honor the sacrifice of the Hmong Lao people on Veterans Day and every day in Wausau, therefore be it declared that I, Doug Denny, Mayor, City of Wausau, do hereby proclaim that we recognize our Hmong Lao soldiers on November 11th as well in observance of Veterans Day in the City of Wausau, State of Wisconsin, in honor of their sacrifice and support of the war efforts of the United States government. Signed, Doug Denny, Mayor, City of Wausau.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for Mayor Bennett and also the City Council and our Wausau, our resident here. So my name is Nao Shui Chong. I am the Wisconsin Hmong Lao veteran of American Incorporation president, and I will appreciate the year 2021, the governor declares the Hmong allows holiday and to recognize us, and that is very appreciated for all veterans. And also, I would like to thank you for the United States government, city, county, state, or federal, to give us the opportunity to bring all people come to this country. We'll say new lives, 50 years for this year, so let's make our children have opportunity to have a high education, and everything's very good for us. Thank you very much, and God bless all Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, Nashua, leader of our Hmong veterans. All right. Are we doing presentation first or?
Public comment.
Okay, we're going to do public comment first. We have a number of commenters. Here we go. Jan Brown. And I remind you that we should keep this to the topic on the agenda, and we'll be looking for 3 minutes or less. Hi.
Hi, thank you. I'm here to support Mayor Denny's selection of retired Colonel Leskey's to be a member of the Wausau Police and Fire Commission. I am wearing my Army uniform to show there's veteran support for Mr. Leskes as an appointee to this commission. He is extremely qualified with his current position as the attorney for the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, along with his recent past as Chief of Staff for NATO Special Operation Forces Command, serving as a colonel. Also served as Deputy Commander of the 10th Special Forces at Fort Carson, Colorado, and as a battalion commander where he trained over 200 officers, to list just a few of his leadership command positions. As his resume states, Mr. Leskes is adept at conveying vision, inspiring teams, and building trust. Please do not let Mr. Leskes' possible appointment to Wausau's Police and Fire Commission slip out of Wausau's hands. We veterans and civilians want Mr. Leskes to be voted onto the Wausau Police and Fire Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, if I'd like to ask you to hold the applause till the end here, we'll work through these. I've got up next is Ronald Paquin. Yes, sir. Come on up.
I'm new to the Wausau community. I moved here in '21 from Iowa, where I spent 47 years raising my family there, and I moved here because of my daughter. I was overwhelmed with the medical facilities and the support we had for veterans and everything. But I was very disappointed the way that Mayor Denny was treated for moving the drop box. I didn't see that we did anything wrong. I think he should have been commended for trying to get it secured and being observed for 24 hours and then having somebody raid his home and raid his office and raid his home. I thought, that was terrible. And I left a small community in Iowa where nepotism ruled, but everybody took care of each other. And I don't think that would have happened there. And I was very disappointed with that. And I just wanted to state my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's hold our applause. We're gonna work through these. I have Jay Caldwell up next.
Hi, I'm Jay Coldwell, 3422 Horseshoe Spring Road in Wausau. I'm here to speak about the reconsideration of the appointment of Mr. Leskes to the Police and Fire Commission, and what seems to be an attempt to not follow norms and processes. While the mayor appoints these positions, approval depends on consent of the council, and so there should be an informed consent. Mr. Leskes is very new to Wausau, being here perhaps less than 1 year. Mr. Leskes seemingly treated the initial application as a formality, not providing any meaningful information. His revised application still has missing information, including the addresses of his references, providing only phone numbers. His experience is apparently solely in the military and special operations field. Military and special operations tactics should have no relationship to community policing or fire protection. His revised application seems to indicate he wants to remake the police and fire departments in some way. We should know what he has in mind before he's given this authority. One of his references, retired General Sean Swindell, was the general in charge during the bombing of a Doctors Without Borders hospital in Afghanistan, killing over 40 people. General Swindell apparently ducked any responsibility for this tragedy, and his subordinates took the fall. So it was an odd selection for a reference, it seems. Back to the city of Wausau, the mayor was asked about the current party affiliation of members of the PFC, as there's a requirement that no more than 3 members of one party be on the PFC, and the mayor refused to provide this information. There seems to be a growing disregard for following norms and procedures, with the mayor assuming authority that he may not have, or trying to get the council sign-off on things with incomplete information. Overall, it feels as though someone has an agenda here that's not transparent. I encourage you not to take up this agenda item, or if you do so, please vote no. We must protect our institutions.
Thank you. Up next is Sandra Kelch.
Tonight I wanted to talk about homelessness in Wausau, since this month has been proclaimed Homeless Awareness Month. I know that, I don't know if it's on the agenda tonight, I actually didn't have a chance to look, but money that's going to be asked for and possibly designated to Catholic charities. I think we put ourselves in a situation by ignoring real solutions, and we put ourselves in a situation that we have no choice but to fund additional money to Catholic charities for the winter that's ahead. But we need to jump off this hamster wheel of criminalization and the shelter model, which only has proven for years across the nation that it only increases chronic homelessness. Wausau residents are not happy about their tax dollars going to the unhoused. They should be very unhappy. The fact that the money that is going is being wasted on programs that only increase homelessness, not decrease. I think we need to start asking serious questions about programming, making sure that programming is actually a part of programming. We also need to start asking why we are not looking at the real solutions that other communities have put into place. It takes a simple Google search, a little bit of time, traveling to Madison, checking out other tiny home villages, housing first with wraparound service programs that we do not implement here. We just had an event for Homeless Awareness Month held at the CPC. CPC, who does not open up their lobby to the unhoused during the winter, forcing other solutions to have to come about. I found that to be quite ironic. We need to start putting our money where our mouth is. If we want to fight homelessness, we need housing first with wraparound services. I used to beat my head against the wall wondering how I could relay this to the city council and past city councils, because it seems to fall on deaf ears. My question now is not how do I get you to understand, because I think you all do understand, you're very intelligent people, but I have to ask why you refuse. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next is Lewis here. Up next is Phileas Lesky.
Good evening. My name is Vilius Leskys. I go by V for most people. It's a Lithuanian name, so I go by V for short. I'm here really just to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to have some introspection in my life to figure out why I want to serve this great community of Wausau. And it really gave me a lot of pause. 32 years I donned the uniform to serve this country, serve this great nation. In retiring, which I did just earlier this year and moved to Wausau, I've been doing pro bono work to help veterans in their disability compensation. And that has been quite an experience for me, changing jobs and doing what I think is quite a blessing. But the one thing that I've never had, nor has my family had, is an anchor point in the community, to be able to actually serve at the local community level. To give you a little bit of background on who I am as a person, I'm a first-generation American. My parents escaped the atrocities of the Soviet Union from Lithuania to go to refugee camps and finally immigrated to the United States. My first language was Lithuanian. I'm an ESL guy. And I grew up going to Lithuanian school on Saturdays up through high school level to be able to retain my language. And during which time I grew to understand the tyranny and oppressive governances that existed abroad. One great example, when I was young, I remember selling cupcakes and cookies to be able to actually buy leather gloves to send to Lithuanians in Siberian concentration camps. And it left an indelible impression, as you would imagine. Well, at the end of the Cold War, it almost stands to reason that I would don the uniform to be able to do something to prevent that tyranny from happening abroad and happening elsewhere in the globe. 32 years later, the toughest part of the job was dragging my family around, having to move every 2 years. We had to think about where we were going to go to be able to settle down and get some stability for our children. It was at dinner, our priest in Belgium in our last duty assignments that actually told us, you need to go to Wausau. He was part of the Institute for Christ the King, which is affiliated with St. Mary's right here on Grand Avenue. I laughed about it, but I also said, hey, I'm an attorney in Wisconsin, but I think my wife would struggle based on the fact that she's a Southern gal and the winters here are fairly tough. We decided to try. We bought the house sight unseen here from Belgium and decided to settle down in this community, this wonderful community. We've been here for about a year. We've been accepted with open arms and we've embraced it ourselves, very much so. We're blessed. We've always held our priorities as God, family, and country, but now we have that anchor point of the community. And I'm simply asking for the opportunity to be able to serve in a meaningful way here. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. Is Lewis Smith here? Lewis Smith is not here. Okay. Thank you for the comments. And we have a presentation. I see the Sean twins in the back lining up. We have our CIP Community Infrastructure Partners here to give us an update on lead service line and project presentation and maybe a look for what they have in the future.
Yeah, good evening. As you all know, we have an agreement with Community Infrastructure Partners, which began last year. And this was our first year in lead service line replacement with them. It was a great year. And I am going to turn this over to them as they're going to kind of recap what 2024, how it went, and then moving forward into 2025. And I guess I would ask, I'm hopefully that City Council will see the advantage of this project delivery model and how we're moving this forward. Not only the amount of money that we're going to be receiving from Bill, the bipartisan infrastructure law, but also the services we can provide to residents at really minimal, if no cost. So turn it over to CIP to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Council. I'm Sean Karashke, President and CEO of Community Infrastructure Partners. I will be brief to everybody's pleasure, I'm sure, before turning it over to these guys. But really just wanted to take 30 seconds here to thank the Council, most of whom were here through this when we started February of last year. And I think the big thing from that was we had asked really for you guys to trust us, sight unseen, for something that hadn't been done anywhere in the country before. And I think as you'll see and hear as these guys walk through what we were able to accomplish in year one, it really has become the model for the rest of the country. And as this money finally starts getting out the door, not just in Wisconsin, but the rest of the United States, I think you're going to see more and more communities doing what Wausau did for exactly the reasons you're going to hear from the rest of the team. So I think the one highlight I wanted to point out, and I know Eric shared with the council earlier, was recognized on the international stage through the P3 Awards in early October for really taking an innovative and progressive approach to lead service line replacements. And I think it's more than just the community aspect. It's really been how do you maximize the economic opportunity to ensure that this funding that's really limited at both the state and national level gets spent as efficiently and effectively as possible. So with that, I'll turn it over to these guys to walk you through the details.
Could you pull up the next slide? Thanks. So first, I just kind of want to review the successes of this year and where we ended up. So there are 629 homes that we ended up registering for replacement in 2024. And to date, as of kind of last Wednesday, I guess, there's 580 homes that we've replaced. We're working to get that final 629 by December 6th. 100% of that work was completed by target class companies. So companies located in the state of Wisconsin and union companies as well. 15,000 hours were worked by local residents. So again, residents within the state of Wisconsin. And then around $4 million were contracted to local businesses as well. So those were plumbers, and then our outreach team, as well as some other folks as well that were key. In terms of our verification efforts, which was really a big part of the program, we started with around 3,000 homes that were in eligible tracks for this first year of the program. It took about 4,800 home visits, so many homes were visited multiple times, but we did get to over 2,000 homes verified. So that doesn't just mean that we added them as they have lead, but it also improved the inventory status of the city, so that kind of just makes it easier to report to DNR and the EPA. Through that effort, there's a little asterisk there on that 2,100. About 210 of those actually came through from our internet submission form. So around 10% actually came through from online. So that was really helpful as well. At the end of the day, we ended up finding 654 homes that were eligible for replacement in this first year. And we were able to get 629 of those to actually sign up and give us consents. So that's about a 98% turnaround on those consents. So we're really proud of that. And I would like to take this opportunity again to kind of reiterate Sean's point and thank the council and the alders that have helped us here. Inviting us to community meetings and neighborhood meetings was super helpful and really helped us get the word out and kind of gain the trust of the community as well. So we do appreciate that.
All right, so here are the financial summaries. One of the benefits of the model is we've always promised to be fully transparent and show the entire cost stack, so every dollar spent on the program. The table on the right was what the budget was at the initial application when the city applied for funding from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. After closing costs, it was just under $5.7 million to replace 553 lead service lines, which was about $10,000 a line. The actual results is that table on the left side. And as Eric just mentioned, we're replacing 629 this year. So we're replacing 76 more than what the initial contract said and what the application was. And we're doing it for $215,000 less than the initial budget. So that reduced the overall cost to about $8,600 a line. And that number is going to continue to go down as the scale goes up. So as we'll talk about in future slides, as we get to 1,800 next year, you can expect the cost per lead service line to continue to decline. Next slide, please. Another point about this contract is it is performance-based, and there are 5 KPIs that govern the contract to hold us accountable to actually deliver on the results that we promise contractually. So we had a fixed not to exceed cost during our annual planning process that was set at just over $8,700 a line. And as you saw on the last slide, we're delivering at about $8,650, and that's for an additional 629 homes than we thought. The other thing is we found 13 homes that had heavy rock. That's included in this number. There were certain things, as this was year one, that we didn't budget for, like 50 hydro excavations at $300 each. And there was permitting costs that we didn't initially budget for. All of that is included. We don't have any excuses. There's no change orders. So we're still within the budget despite all of those challenges and lessons learned. Go back, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
The second KPI was the minimum target. As we mentioned, we had contractually promised to replace 553 lead service lines. We'll be at 629 lead service lines at the end of the year. We also had a local business utilization for construction dollars to be spent by at least 50% of every dollar that went to construction had to go to Wisconsin-based business. It was 100% of every dollar went to Wisconsin-based businesses on the construction side. And then target class businesses went from 20% this year, 30% next year, 40% in 2026. We're at 100% based on the target class definition. The final KPI is a workforce development KPI to either recruit a residential plumber or launch a lead service line program with LiUNA. We actually did both. We have a contracted plumber with SSI, which is a local union licensed plumber, and we've developed a workforce development program with LiUNA, specifically the Wisconsin Laborers Council District, where we have a training program that actually develops careers for people in different trades. So now this is a look ahead for year 2 for 2025. The program applied for just under $15 million and was awarded all $15 million. Of that, about $9 million is grant funded, which is 100% of the costs on the private side, and about 15% of the costs on the public side is also grant funded. That leaves just about $6 million in loans, which is 0.25% interest rate, so it's heavily subsidized. It's the cheapest cost of capital out there right now, and we're ramping up to over 1,860 lines next year. So we're going from 629 to 1862. We will have a full year to begin the program, so we'll have more. We'll be able to start construction earlier in the year. We didn't start till July of this year. And you can see the map there. Next year is based on 6 specific census tracts. So all of the census tracts from this year, from 2024, as well as a few additional ones. You want to do this one?
So this is just the breakdown of where we plan on actually doing the replacements over next year. So, that's where they're going basically through tracks 1, 4, 6, 1, 6, 2, 7, and 8. And really a big part of kind of setting up for next year is we're going to be reaching out to you, the alders, to get feedback from the community, from your constituents, and then also kind of just try to set out some plans for next year and just go into it with a good plan, basically. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions for CIP? We have one from Alder Lukens. Oh, are we using the machine?
We can, now it's up again.
Okay. Let's go with Alder Lukens first and then Alder Henke.
I just wanted to thank you all from CIP. My district was one that had quite a few lead service lines replaced and a lot of people signing up to have theirs checked. Walking my dogs throughout the neighborhood regularly, got to see the process in action. I got to talk with some of the workers for the program. I met others I went to one home specifically of someone that needed to have theirs checked and wanted me to be there. And it just so happened that the young man that came to check it is the son of a former professor for a course of mine, so locally here. So it was really nice to see the process. And I had many residents comment, email me, call me, to tell me, to thank me or thank us, thank CIP, said it was very professional. They were very happy with it. They were really grateful for the cost savings. Some of them had checked on this before, and so I didn't hear of any problems at all. So it went smoothly, and I was seeing a lot. I saw a lot of it. So I just wanted to thank you, and it was smooth sailing. So overwhelmingly, I heard all positive. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Henke.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd just like to echo what Alder Lucan said. My house was actually one of them that got replaced. And you said heavy rock. You probably hit heavy rock in my yard because it didn't come up where it used to be. They actually had to move it in the basement. But they did a really great job inside, and I want to say once a week I'm forwarding your email address to or your website to someone because they're asking about where to sign up and where to get verification. So
Great.
Thank you guys.
All right. Thanks for swinging over, and welcome to Wausau.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott.
All right, up next is the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion. Motion from Henke, second from Martins. Comments, questions? Seeing none?
You may begin voting. Motion passes 8-1.
All right, up next is file number 24-1109, and this is a public hearing we're required to do every year for the budget. So it's the proposed 2025 City of Wausau budget, and I'm looking for anyone interested in speaking to that. You can speak up or step up to the microphone, and the mic is yours. Please come up, state your name.
Good evening, Tom Killian, 133 East Thomas Street. I guess I hope to provide some feedback and perhaps some constructive input, and I'll start with the first. As we can see, there didn't seem to be a line behind me to speak to the budget tonight, and I think that raises a question. How can we get the public more engaged in the city's financial processes? Now, I think this is important, especially because when we looked at valuations and assessments recently, it was working in middle-class neighborhoods that really saw the biggest bump in percentages in those valuations. So knowing these things, perhaps next year there could be effort made to take some dialogue to the neighborhoods most impacted, and perhaps people could tell you what their priorities are. And the reason that's important is they say that our budget should be a reflection of the city's priorities. In a legitimate government setting, that would mean a reflection of the people's priorities. And is the document you have in front of you tonight such a thing? I would argue clearly it is not. As you flip through it, it's filled with the same pork and fat and TIF expenditures to the ultra wealthy and to developers as it is year after year. So I would say that is not a reflection of the community's desires and priorities. Now, the excuse given on some of these things, why must we pursue fake austerity measures while keeping the money flowing to boondoggles? One of the excuses given is, hey, like the wheel tax, we need to diversify and increase revenue. But really, it's a false narrative peddled by the establishment to think we'd have to do it that way. As I've said before, in Wisconsin, there are financial tools available called development impact fees, right? And what that would do, it would allow the city to charge developers, as they should be for large developments, with infrastructure and utilities that are directly related to such developments. We're not doing that now. You can see in your budget the millions and millions of dollars in the budget to build roads and utilities for developments that benefit high-density development of the good old boys. We should not be putting that on taxpayers' back. And furthermore, are we really spending on necessities? If we can put millions into developer payments, why can't we tonight just put a few $1,000s into porta potties for our poorest citizens so that we're not incarcerating them on bogus trespassing and public urination citations? If you can't give the poorest a pot to piss in, you shouldn't be giving T-Wall and Gadorzy $10 to $20 million to build their golden calves. So thank you.
Thank you. And we, excuse me. We'll need to finish out the public hearing first. So I'm going to have to read this 3 times. So is there anyone else who would like to speak publicly here on the budget? And one last time, this is a public hearing for the proposed 2025 City of Wausau budget. Anyone here would like to speak? The mic is yours. Seeing none, we can close the public hearing and move on to the next file number 24-1102. This is mayor's appointments. We don't have any standard mayor's appointments tonight, but I would like to announce, or at least make people aware, that the mayor's office, working with the clerk's office, has redesigned the citizen participation form so it'd make it a little easier. And we're going to be promoting that to try to get more people interested and get people who are interested into the database. And if you recall, we did not have such a tool prior to last term. Mayor Rosenberg implemented this. It has been a good tool to gauge interest. We can search on certain keywords. We can search on committees, find people who might be interested in a particular committee. It is not necessarily the be-all, end-all vetting tool, but it's a tool to help us build a database of people interested. So we'll be promoting that to get more people. And for example, when we had the May opening for police and fire, or last April, we didn't have anyone in the queue. So we had to go out and we found 2 individuals. One of them was appointed and one of them is now on the docket tonight. So look for that. Up next is 240902, and this is a mayor's appointment again, but it's a reconsideration. And you see there, Mr. Lesky for police and fire. Would entertain a motion? And we have a motion from Henke, second from McElhaney. And I would like to just clarify one thing that was a misconception or maybe a misunderstanding statement about the party affiliations. Prior to August 28th, nobody on police and fire was ever asked what their political affiliations was. Speaking with the previous police and fire president, they took a don't ask, don't tell approach. What I did on the 28th of October is I surveyed at our last police and fire commission meeting, surveyed the members, and at that time there were none under the statute that qualified as affiliated with a party. That was published. It was presented to alders and in an email, and it was presented to the Police and Fire Commission, and it's the Police and Fire Commission's charge every April to test that statute. So political affiliations could change. You could change parties if you were one or the other. So when we, every year under the statute, we're required, it's a laddered board. So every year there is a replacement of one or a renewal of a person. So that's the opportunity for us to test that and check that. So that, go ahead. Okay, we have some requests to speak. I'm going to go with Alder Rasmussen, number 1.
Thank you. So first, let me thank Mr. Leskus for appearing tonight. I think that that's helpful to us. When we first considered this nomination, we had almost no information to go on. We had a very sparse application, and we just did not have a lot of background information. And usually our reaction as a government body is when we don't have sufficient or complete or accurate information, our answer, it feels like it has to be no, because we can't make an educated decision. So since that time, we've received some information. We received some information from folks tonight that spoke on his behalf, but I think it was meaningful to hear from him. I think that any nomination, what we really want to know is who that person is and really what their motivation is. Why do they want that job? Why do they want to serve? And I think that Mr. Leskis was articulate in explaining exactly why he wants to serve, and I think that that's helpful for us any time. I also found out over the last couple days that the mayor had not only met with Mr. Leskis, but he had offered both the police and fire chief the opportunity to informally meet with the applicant. They've actually also had an opportunity to speak with him. I've spoken to both of them. Both of them explained their interactions as positive, and that they do believe that he possesses the skill set that's necessary. That said, I think that that's valued. I mean, we clearly have experience with them. We trust both of them. So I think that, decisions for us are easier to make when we have that information and we have that background. And I think when that's lacking, that really creates a vacuum that we're not able to make a decision in. And I think that decision we made when it came out as no generated a whole lot of different drama. And it really wasn't about local politics, and it wasn't about partisan politics. It's about get us the answers we seek and get us accurate and complete information, and you'd be surprised what we can do. So I'm really glad that he came tonight and that we were able to hear from him. I think that in 5 minutes we learned more from him than we learned from 2 weeks of fighting. So I'm just really glad that he came. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And I think it's important for me to explain that part of that issue with the lack of information is on me. When I got the first position to fill back in April, I reached out to 2 people. One of them was the one that we put forward. The other was Mr. Leskis, and he was out of state with his family at the time. So I took his information over the phone. This goes back to when Jean Frankel was here yet, and she helped me put it into the system. It was then that I realized that we needed to fill those spaces in. I put that information in there. It wasn't an error on his part. So I made an effort to clean that up, and rightfully so. It was incomplete on the 8th of October. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for transparency's sake, I'd like you to know that I had never met Mr. Leskis prior to his self-introduction at our meeting this evening. We have always based our decisions on information that we get in our packet. And what Alder Rasmussen said, hearing Mr. Leskis was extremely valuable. And for me, it instilled a real feeling of trust. The information I will base my decision on this evening is the information in our packet and the information that was provided by Mr. Leskis. I see a man, a gentleman, who has honorably served our nation. I see a man who is an attorney. And I want to remind you, this is a mayoral appointment in 2024. It's not a McCarthy hearing in 1954. Decisions should be based on credible information, not a witch hunt, and that's what this has felt like to me. Because of the information that I do have in our packet, and because of what I have heard this evening, I will support our mayor's appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder
Yeah, I think
Tierney? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am the one who put forth this reconsideration, and the reason being is I had been told by an acquaintance of mine that he had a very honorable military background and was quite capable as an attorney in interpreting laws and being a valued asset. So I went out and I Googled Mr. Leskis and got some information, and his military record is incredible. The way he served his country, I can't begin to thank you enough for what you have done for our country in representing the U.S. Your pro bono work for veterans is so honorable. And unfortunately, that first resume that we got, again, was lacking information and led to the no vote because we didn't know who you were or your reasons for wanting this position. What we know about you is more than we know about pretty much any other candidate who has ever applied to be on a citizens committee. We don't get this kind of information on other candidates who apply to be on a citizens committee. And after all of the information that we have been provided, and especially hearing from Mr. Leskus, I 100% support this this candidate for the Commission for Police and Fire.
Thank you. Alder Watson.
So I am glad it's reconsidered because initially there was a lot of curiosity surrounding the vote. And I think, I don't think it was necessarily a witch hunt, so to speak. The application was very, I don't know, sparse to begin with. And I think most of our residents would probably want us to make a more educated and informed decision. So the initial application was quite, unfilled out, and the mayor's taking ownership for that, and hopefully we'll have more robust applications going forward. That's very great. To answer another, I think, comment that a citizen mentioned was about the party affiliation, and I appreciate that you are going to be polling that and having that police and fire commission take care of that. Currently, I believe you said all four are unaffiliated, correct?
All four currently, yes.
They've stated that in the meeting. So I think having that record now on the record and going forward, we can make sure we're in compliance with that code and ordinance, which is important. So I appreciate that the application was more developed over time. We needed to know that information. If I can't see on the application, references that are local, that I know in the community, that know this person, it makes it very difficult for me to approve that appointment without having that background information. And the initial application had, and maybe it was just an unfortunate accident, but it had him listed twice as his own reference. And then the remaining ones had people that are, not from this country as references. So I really appreciate that we have more information and we can make a more well-informed decision. So thank you.
Thank you. Alder McElhaney.
I'm astounded. Anyway, we have always given mayors broad discretion. This is my third mayor. And unless, there used to be a way that when people were appointed, they had a small bio. We didn't have references. We didn't have all of that. I'm getting emails asking me, did I call references on this man? And I guess I need this council to tell me, are we switching now? And do we want to develop an objective list or some kind of objectives or benchmarks that any appointed person for any board or commission needs to check mark? Do we want to interview people? I mean, we have talked about that previously. We were going to interview. I guess what I worry is that are we going to change in midstream? And it felt that way with this. I do understand I did vote the first time that we needed more information with the resume, but the second time the resume was filled out. I mean, or that participation sheet, whatever it's called. It was filled out. There were references on there. I don't look for references for people. I'm not going to be calling them. Again, I know that the mayor interviewed. I knew that the chiefs interviewed. I knew all that. Did anybody else ask? We just had a no vote. If you needed more information, instead of impugning somebody's character, which is what happened, we could have tabled it and said, I need this, 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 and this. It has again caused such uproar in this community. And we talk about what residents want. You know what? I had the message, stop it. Work together for the betterment of Wausau. And I just want that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we have point of order, please? We do have rules of decorum, though, and I'm going to ask, Mayor, that you do instill those because you did read them last time.
Please refrain from clapping. We have Alder Watson. Oh, by the way, we are, like I mentioned, we are working with the clerk, and we'll come up with a standardized form if we want to clean it up and get a little narrative. We can do that. We'll present it HR or something like that. We'll get that out. Alder Watson.
And I don't think it's necessarily astonishing that we are considering a person serving on a committee that represents two portions of our public services that represent 54% of our city's budget. I mean, it's a pretty intense commission. And so I think it is great that you're going to be developing this. And I don't know, I don't know if that is something that can then go to like the Rules Review Committee, or is it an HR committee thing? Because I think like any kind of job, a job application is sort of a nice thing to have. So thanks.
Sure. And I don't want to diminish one committee over the other, but I probably spend more time on this particular committee than I would on, say, a bike ped committee. So I think I recognize there's a difference in qualifications and requirements for certain committees over the other. Alder Tierney.
Thank you. And I think what we have to do is, with this said form that we're going to clarify a little bit, we are asking citizens to volunteer for these committees. We cannot make it more difficult than a job application for paid employment. What we need to do is, we need to look at the person and what their interest is in being on this committee, and what they feel they can bring to it. To check references, to do this kind of work for a volunteer position is going to deter people to even apply to be on these committees. The information that we have from Mr. Leskus is probably, more information than we had from anybody else. And again, when we're looking at these are volunteers giving up their time to be on these committees. So we can't make it so difficult for them that they don't want to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to reaffirm what Alder Tierney is saying. We can't make this so difficult and so intense that people don't want to apply. There are many good people who don't have a strong professional background, who don't have a college education, who haven't been honored in our military, people who are ordinary citizens of our city who want to work with us. And I agree that if we make it too difficult, it is going to inhibit them from working and wanting to help us. So I would just like to agree with Alder Tierney.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote?
You may begin voting. Motion passes 9-0.
Thank you very much. Good input. Thank you. And welcome to the PSC, Mr. Lex. Up next is item or file number 23-1109AB. It's a finance resolution approving and adopting budget modification for American Rescue Plan Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund funded projects, 2 triaxle dump trucks. And this was approved in finance 5-0. And this requires a 2/3 vote as a modification. Would entertain a motion from Larson, second from Alder Martins.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 9-0.
Okay. Next file number 23-1109AC, another finance resolution approving 2024 budget modification for the airport hangar number 2 roof replacement project that was also approved 5-0 at Finance. Motion from Lucan, second from Alder Rasmussen. And Alder Hanky.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick question if Eric's still here. When this went out for bid, did the contractors have opportunity to look at this?
They did, yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of this cost was the decking that had to be replaced, and it's finished on the inside. So unless we did destructive testing, we wouldn't have known that the decking did not meet current codes.
All right.
And then there was also a couple additional layers that were not visible from the top as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alder Martins.
Sorry. I hit my button by mistake, sorry.
Okay. Anything further on that? Seeing none?
You may begin voting. Motion passes 9-0.
All right, up next is file number 241109. It's a finance resolution adopting the 2025 City of Wausau budget and general property tax to support the same. That was a 4-0 approval, and we have a motion from Larson, second from Martins. Alder Martins.
All right. Now I did mean to push my button. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the budget because this is something that's been weighing a very long time on my mind. The budget process starts in June when we begin our capital improvement planning process, and then just continues on through the summer into the fall with our budget workshops in October. And now we've got that just the hefty document that you probably, like me, got on your on your front stoop last week to review it over the weekend. But I know there was a lot of last summer. There was a lot of talk of that we were going to be under the threat of double-digit levy increases because of the property reassessments that we were going through, the state-mandated reassessments. Not only our community, but many, many communities within the state are grappling with the same issues that we are in the city of Wausau. But fortunately, we have been able to deliver a budget with a levy increase of only 2.47%, which is underneath the mayor's target of a 2.5% increase, and is also the lowest levy increase that we've had in over 10 years. And the good news is that there's really no vital programs that affect quality of life for the residents were cut. We still have all of our pools. Sylvan Hill will run this winter. We're fully funded public safety, and our road reconstructions will continue into 2025. And also, any kind of, you look at the budget and you see increases, but the budget increases are really not due to out-of-control spending. All of our departments, they did a great job at holding the line. We did not entertain any supplemental increases this year in the 2025 budget, so there's no extra spending. And any increase to the levy is really due to rising personnel costs and inflationary pressure. We see that in a lot of departments. The cost of goods has just gone up. The cost of labor has increased. So, I mean, some of the things we talk about increases. I mean, for good of our personnel costs. We've anticipated a 3.5% increase in wages for police, fire, and our transit unions. All three of those unions are under negotiation this year. 3%. We're instituting a 3% cost of living increase for our non-represented employees. This keeps our non-represented employees' wages on par or equity with our represented employees. The really good news with this year's budget is our health insurance premiums are only going to increase 2%. We were looking at close to a 20% health insurance increase, but the city was able to take, finance department was able to take, and HR is able to take the our health insurance to the market and able to, and get a new carrier that was going to give us a 2% rate guaranteed this year and a 9% increase guaranteed for next year. So we will have stability going into the future. Some of the other, like I said, some of the other increases that we've seen, utility costs, motor pool changes, janitorial costs, training and travel has decreased. We've been able to save some money because we've had a mild winter. Street salt costs have decreased this last year, and we're able to carry that forward into our 2025 budget. So hopefully we'll have a mild winter once again. And one of the things we have instituted this year is just some new public charges in order to help increase revenues and reduce pressure on the levy, including a vehicle and premises lockout assistance by the police and fire. We're instituting a small service fee for public event, ticketed public events that require public safety as a part of their of producing that event. What that does is that takes the cost of providing public safety off of our residents, off the levy, and puts that onto the people that are actually benefiting in the participation of those events. So all in all, it's a solid budget. It's a good budget. I'm happy with this budget, with the amount of work we've put into it, and I think we, as a body, we should be proud of this budget, and we should move forward and pass it. It's definitely a good thing. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike, and I apologize. I wanted to set this up earlier. Our finance chair, Mike Martins, facilitated this budget process with 4 workshops. It was his first opportunity to guide the team through that and allowing all voices to be heard. We had new members, Alder Tierney, Alder Killian, actively sought clarity on our operations. Alder McElhaney had some independent proposals to save us money. So it was a real testament to collaborative spirit. And I just will throw one little warning out here, as I did back 2 years ago. We've made some progress, but we're still far from achieving the zero-based budgeting we're looking to do. Historical reliance on ARPA funds to support ongoing cost puts us in a precarious position. And I mentioned when I was here from D4 2 years ago, we do have a ticking time bomb, and at that time it was the ARPA funded positions. And tonight we're reminded by our CIP friends our ambitious goal to replace 8,000 lead service lines, and just over 5 years. That associated debt, by the way, and it's in your budget book, has not been fully materialized here and realized in 2024, and it's projected to triple in 25 to about 6.1 million in obligations that we must confront. So we do have, as Mike mentioned, 10-year low in our increase, which is great. We can't ignore some of the coming challenges that we're faced with, and primarily those unfunded. So let us move forward with our eyes wide open, committed to making the tough choices that will lead us to a sustainable future. Sorry to jump on your line there, Mr. Larson, but Mr. Larson, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say a huge thank you to our Finance Committee and to our Finance Chair, Mike Martins, for the work they've done on this. There was a bit of adversity in there and stuff, and you all overcame it to solidly think this through. And with that, I just want to say a huge thank you to you all.
Thank you, Alder Watson.
So I know, Mike, you mentioned that there's going to be an extra fee for events, right? And I was at the budget session where you guys talked about that. Could you just let us know how that exactly is going to come to pass? Like, is it kicked back to public health and safety, or what's the process for that? Because I think it's about 70 grand that is in the budget for extra revenue.
Yeah, we are anticipating, during the budget process, we were looking at 2 different types of of service fees for public events. One was for ticketed events, and the second one was a surcharge to the permitting process for free events. We did not take a stance on the permit fee surcharge for free events, so there's not going to be any extra expense on free events, but with ticketed events, and that would be things like the Wisconsin Valley Fair, Among American Festival, Wings Over Wausau, the Iron Bowl events, where there is a user purchasing a ticket or a pass for the event, there would be an assessment or a special fee onto that ticket that would go directly towards public safety costs. And we're estimating that while we don't know what the exact cost of public safety is, we do know it's going to be it's probably more than the $70,000 that we're anticipating collecting the first year, but that's a benchmark that the Finance Committee put into place, and it'll be up to Public Health and Safety Committee in order to kind of draft the necessary ordinance or structure that will be necessary in order to move forward with the ticketed event fee.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I also want to thank the Finance Committee and the staff. Our departments have worked really hard to get to a reasonable budget with a reasonable levy that really preserves the facilities and the services that residents expect, that they appreciate. I mean, really, that ultimately is our goal. Fund the things that we have to fund, hold on the things that we know can hold, and then, protect those things that people value most in exchange for their tax dollar. I think this does that. I think that the committee, through its workshops, really worked hard on getting us to the right place without a lot of extreme measures to get there. It still does allow us to gain ground on infrastructure. It allows us to have reasonable capital expense plan. It really doesn't shortcut. In the past, I can remember going through budget cycles, specifically between 2009 and 2015, as we were in and then emerging from the Great Recession. The first two things that always got cut was infrastructure and facilities, and the third thing was parks. And what we left ourselves with through that was a fairly stable levy, but we left ourselves also with a gigantic backlog of work that needed done. And so, we have gradually worked our way out of some of that backlog, and we're really in a good place. So I feel like this is really something that we can be proud of in terms of the body of work. Going forward, as we start to talk about the expiration of ARPA funds and things, we have been meticulous in prior incantations of the Finance Committee to time some of those things with the closure of tax increment funding districts. So, I think that as revenue starts to come in from districts closing, we'll see some relief on some of those budgetary pressures as well. I do agree with the ticketed event public safety fee. I think if anyone is going to go out and purchase a ticket, regardless of what that ticket price is, whether it's $10 or $40, knowing as an event attendee that $1 of that ticket price is going to keep that event safe, and some of those events are really of some substantial size, there's value there. And knowing that our public safety departments really are the best in the business, they do that better than anyone else, and knowing that they're there, and if it's an event that requires a lot of standby, the fact that we can even recover a part of that investment puts us ahead of where we were before. So I'm excited about this budget and proud to vote for it. So thank you all for your work.
Thank you. Alder Lukens.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to just echo the others in thanking the Finance Committee and the staff for all of their hard work. I know that I couldn't attend the meetings, but I watched them all, and there were a lot of thoughtful discussions. There were some very challenging decisions you had to make. I did receive, calls wondering about the non-ticketed events, and they were really grateful to hear that there would be no charge added on to that. But I agree with the comments of the other alders, and I, again, appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Alder McElhaney.
I just want to kind of mention to everyone about the ticketed events. I know that got a lot of press, and even when we talked about the other free events, and I guess publicly, people that didn't watch those budget hearings or whatever you call them, budget meetings, seemed like hearings at times, there is a significant amount of overtime that our residents of the city of Wausau pays for these type of events. This isn't like trying to make this a moneymaker. It is truly trying to limit the exposure of the money that goes out for these events. You know, the police chief came up and said, if we get money paid back or not, I'm going to have my force there to make sure that in any event held within the city of Wausau, that it is a safe event, which is good. But, you know, when I hear from the same police chief or the fire chief saying we spend a significant amount of overtime for those type of events, and it's not going to go down. It's only going up. It's just the world we live in. So I was very much pro doing a small surcharge, and there was some comments made in the press, and I hope it was done. It was just misquoted, but we were not trying to, as a finance committee, trying to balance the budget on the back of Wausau area events. We're trying to be fair. And part of the reason we decided, I guess I should speak for me, but it was a discussion that these events are definitely populated by people outside of the city of Wausau. There are plenty of people from outside communities that come and enjoy our events, and that's great. But again, it's the taxpayers of the city of Wausau that is paying the big amount on that every time. So, and when we talk about the free events, we get up to 2,800 people every Wednesday on for those concerts. So my charge to the Wausau Area Chamber of Commerce and WAS and all of the downtown people that burn our carpet coming up to the podium asking for the city of Wausau residents and taxpayers to please support their downtown investments, I'm going to ask them, please support our free events by pitching in and helping with our public safety costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like we might be ready to vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 8-1.
All right, looks like we have 3 short items left. Anyone need a break here when we drive on? All right, here we go. Item is 24-1109. It's a finance resolution authorizing the modification of fees to the City of Wausau fees and license schedule adopted pursuant to Wausau Municipal Code 3.40.010 subparagraph A. It's a 2025 comprehensive fee schedule. And this requires a simple majority. And we have a motion from Henke, second from Lukens. Sorry. Alder Larson, second that. Comments? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 9-0.
Up next, file 24-1110. It's an infrastructure and facilities resolution. Preliminary resolution levying special assessments for the 2025 street construction projects that was approved 5-0. We have a motion from Watson, second from Larson. Questions, comments? We're ready to vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 9-0.
Up next, item file number 24-1111, another infrastructure and facilities resolution. It's a preliminary resolution levying special assessments for the 2025 alley paving project, and that was approved at INF 5-0. Motion from Watson, second from Henke.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 9-0.
Final item tonight is public comment and suggestions. The mic is open. We have a few minutes before 8. Anyone? All right, we will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion from Watson, second from Hinkie. All in favor?
Aye.
See you later, everybody.